What is up, party people? I am Taylor. It is September 19th, 2023. I don't know, whatever. I think it's that year. I'm old enough that I forget what year it is sometimes, and I'm just addled and out of it. Anyways, this is the Cranky comic book review show. It's where I talk about comics, and I'm always pleasant and happy, hence the title. Before we get into that, though, a couple bits of housekeeping business. I'm going to go in order of importance. First, there's an event coming up in October called Comics Curing Cancer. I'm going to leave a link down below to it. It's a bunch of YouTube creators and Instagrammers and everything else kind of getting together to help donate books or buy books or whatever. Like, there's going to be an auction. You can buy things at the auction. All the money, all the proceeds from that will go to Comics Curing Cancer. It's sponsored by the American Cancer Society, or it's a legit thing. All the money goes directly to them, so it's not like a middleman in that regard. You just donate money right to the Cancer Society, you get a comic. Or if you have comics or art or something you want to donate, you can do that as well. And it's just a great cause. Cancer's a motherfucker. It gets us all. My mother died from it, and it's a bad thing. Well, the cancer. The charity's a good thing. So, link down below. Second, and much less important, but whatever, it is what it is. Comic Book Community Awards. Go vote for your favorite creators, people that are making the content you enjoy, that you watch, and it's free. Just give them a little vote down below. I'm nominated in one of the categories. You can go hunt down and vote for me if you want, but if not, it's fine. Vote for somebody else. It's fine. All right, let's get into this. It's gonna be a thick boy book, and I also am missing a few because the LCS. So no Alpha Flight number 2, no Hexagon Bridge number 1, which I was looking forward to reading, and there's another one. Oh, Noctera 16, for whatever reason. The LCS didn't order the end of the damn series of Noctera, so it is what it is. I'm assuming Noctera will be back. It always is anyways, but all right. And this is going to be an interesting first pick because I like the author and I don't hate the book. But this is the worst book of the week for reasons. We're going to get into it. Tenement, number 4. This is Bone Orchard Tenement, technically. It's Jeff Lemire, who you'll see later in the list, and Andrea Sorrentino, whose art I love. It's dark, it's mooey, it's hard to comprehend in places, and more than some places where you just have no idea what the hell's going on. And that's my beef with this book. It touches all the nerves that I like in a comic. It's atmospheric. It's got dynamic poses. It's got great visuals. It's got good lettering and coloring and everything else. But it is a god-awful monthly. Like, you're going to start this and end this and still be confused. Lemire knows how to write a goddamn comic. And he knows how to write a monthly comic. And he knows how to pace it. And he knows how to tell a story that have the rhythms and the beats that allow you to pay $4.99 or $3.99 or whatever for a book. This is not it. And the Bone Orchard Tenement and his Bone Orchard universe has had that problem with it. And a lot of his other miniseries have as well lately. They're going to read very well collected, but as a monthly, they're fucking painful. And this one is fucking painful. And it's irritating me, and I don't want to put it this low on the list because it's got great things in it. It's got enough elements that it should be a great book, but it's just not. You read it and you're like, all right, when is this going somewhere? And that's my I've had this issue with Lemire a lot, and it's just kind of just maybe having it bubble up to the surface. And I'll pick them up collected, but for this universe stuff for his, I'm done with the monthlies. I can't do it. And I know I probably said that before, and then I forget. And then I go to the LCS, I'm like, well, maybe I should get it, because it's got a cool Christian Ward cover, and it looks interesting. But I'm done with the Bone Orchard universe. You can hold me to it, and call me out in the comments if I buy any more of them. I guess I'll read them in trade, I'll read them when they're collected. And the way this universe is set up by him is strange anyways, because he's got graphic novels that he'll release in a chunk. And then he's got one-issue things where he's done, and then he's got miniseries like this. And it's the miniseries that are especially frustrating. They're building a universe. They're building this sort of tapestry of horror and unsettlement and an unease that could be very interesting, but it's not in a monthly, and it just pisses me off. All right, things that also piss me off. Give me one of those. Strange Academy Moon Knight #1. This is not a #1. This is a #2 of Moonlight or Strange Academy Summer School. So if you're trying to read, if you're waiting for Summer School or whatever it's called, or it's been renamed. It's now called Moon Knight #1, and it's solved for X Part 2 of 3. It's just a confusing fucking mess as far as that goes. Oh, and the story's fine. It's Carlos Hernandez as a writer and Julian Shaw as the artist. I believe I said I was done with Summer School, but I thought this was something new because I didn't really research. It's a #1. And it's 2 of 3 is what it really is, I believe. And there's going to be a third part. I don't know what it's going to be called. It'll probably be another issue #1 because Marvel's just fucking annoying like that. And yeah, the problem with this also is, okay, Scotty Young created Strange Academy and with Humberto Ramos, and they have this distinctive visual voice and a written voice that applies to these characters, and it just doesn't carry over when someone else is trying to do it. Like Carlos Hernandez may be a fine writer, but he's not equipped to handle the Strange Academy thing to get the tone right. And then the Moon Knight stuff, like Moon Knight is a paltry part of this book. It's just a framing thing, basically. I mean, he's in here. It's just not necessary. You could substitute any other real hero-ish person in there and be fine. And you get these characters from the Strange Academy that feel unfamiliar because they're not written in the familiar way you've learned to love if you've read Strange Academy. And if you've not, you're going to be fucking lost. Because you're picking up a #1, and it's solved for X Part 2 of 3, and you're going to bang your head against the wall. This maybe should have been down here in the bottom, but this is my problem with like both of these. Like, they're just not a good monthly, and this is just fuck you, Marvel, with this and their titling and everything else. Like, you know better, but you know like a #1 sells more, so you're going to do it, and it's just yeah. The art's fine. It's nothing special. It's Julian Shaw. It's competent. Honestly, the coloring I don't really care for. It's like that weird computer digitally coloring where they don't understand shadows in places, and they'll just have like light all over the place and like then throw a gradient on there and think it makes a shadow. But there are some cool panels in here and stuff that way. But like, it's just fucking hell. The story, it's a mediocre story. It's not going to end fantastically. I'm not going to pick up the next Strange Academy book next month or whenever it comes out because I know it's just going to be the end of this bullshit, and it's not going to end well because the first 2 parts have not been great, and so this is just nah. All right, next. This is a tricky one, and it was $10. I didn't look at the price, so it's on me, but it's $10. This is Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr in the Solar Region, as redrawn by Tom Scioli, basically. It's a cool-looking book. It's duotone or 2-color throughout on a creamy paper, thick boy cover. The story is science fiction serial at its kind of worst. It's written by a 22-year-old Jack Kirby before he met Joe Simon, and they teamed up and started doing Marvel stuff. So you get like these ridiculous kind of transitions that are not really great, and you get these like story beats that like from page to page you're like, okay, I guess this is a whole new story. But it's cool looking. It's a retro sci-fi artifact. If you think of it as an art piece more than a comic, you'll probably enjoy it more. But it is $10, and it's going to be for a very select audience. If you're expecting Kirby greatness, you're not going to get it. If you're expecting Tom Scioli writing at the top of his game, you're not going to get it. You're just going to get some weird, cool-looking stuff and a story that doesn't make a ton of sense. It's spacey retro sci-fi, so if you're into that, it could be cool. But even some of that, I don't think it's the best example. If you can do it, I would honestly just go hunt down like a cheaper collection of Silver Age stuff or Golden Age stuff from either Kirby Sci-Fi era or like other writers from the time, and you're going to have more fun time. I think the cover's cool. I think the cover is the highlight of it, and I think the back cover is probably the highlight. But it's a $10 thing, so it's value-wise, it's hard to recommend this one. And like just for the audience, it's like, okay, it's not a good comic if you're judging it purely on comic standards. But if you're thinking about it as something else, there might be some value in there for you. All right, next, we're getting into better books now. We have Nightwing, number whatever the fuck this is, 106. Tom Taylor with Conrad on the art. I think Bruno Redondo might be done, or we're still in the delayed section of it all. And like, this is coming off of Night Terrors, which I did not read all these individual things, and I don't remember what's going on. And so, like, they should have given a little bit better way for people to jump back in, but they really didn't. They're just kind of like, oh, okay, so this is a pirate thing, and with Rick Grayson, Ric Flair, whatever. This relies on on some of Dick Grayson's past that I am not super familiar with. I did not read a lot of the other earlier runs of Nightwing, and I know there's a time where Nightwing wasn't him, or Dick Grayson lost his memory and stuff, and that's touched on in here. So if you don't know that, at least that much, you're gonna be a little bit lost. Tom Taylor does an okay job of giving you hints as to that, and I'm telling you basically that it is Rick, it is Dick Grayson, but it's coming back from like what happened in issue 105 like 3 months ago at this point, and so it's all right. It still doesn't have Bruno Redondo's art. It's like Bruno Redondo light on the art, and the story itself is still an entertaining thing. I'm enjoying Nightwing, and I enjoy Tom Taylor's stuff enough that I'll probably keep up with it. There's a back story in this by, I don't know, somebody. Who's the backstory by? It's called Breakfast or Dinner by Michael Conrad as the writer, and, Conrad's the other writer. Jesus Christ. Okay. Stephen Burns, the artist on the front part. Serge Acuna is the artist on the back. The backstory I didn't care for at all. I really hated it, so it is what it is. All right, next. We have Mark Millar and Pepe Larraz, big game number 3. This is Mark Millar killing off his babies and doing evil things to all the characters he loves, whether or not it's real or whether it's a dream, who the hell knows. Here's the thing. In order for you to get full enjoyment out of this, there's going to be a theme for these two. You're going to have to know what the fuck Mark Millar's done ever. Like, there have been characters in here, like, and a lot of Mark Millar's stuff has been turned into movies. So you get Kick-Ass, you get the what's his face, Eggsy from that one movie, the Kingsman. And then you get Hit Girl, but then there's others that you're like, I don't know who the hell they are. And so, like, you don't have a lot of emotional attachment to a lot of the characters. You do have, so if you know who that person is, Hitman, Hit Boy, Hit Girl, whatever I don't even know the name of the characters. You're going to have better enjoyment. But if not, that was Kick-Ass. Never mind. Like, you're going to have a better time. It's still over the top violent, and it's harmless fun. It's just hard to say a lot about this because I think, given my understanding of Mark Millar is he's got a fairly large ego, and he kind of just expects everybody to know everything he's ever done and his whole weird non-universe that's now connected into this universe. So if you're a Mark Millar fanatic and you've been following everything, you're going to be fine. It'll be great. If not, this is issue 3 of 5. And while it's still a fun enough romp, you're not going to get a ton of it, like more out of it other than like, yeah, all right, dead people. Okay, next, we have Tom Taylor back again, issue number 3 on a book that's been on hiatus for the past couple months because of Night Terrors, which Night Terrors is over. And so now we're back on this, and like you're gonna get thrown back in. But this is a little bit easier to follow because this one it's a team book, and like there's a better job by Tom Taylor of filling you in on what happened, and the better job of the explainy bits, and the art by Nicholas Scott is pretty great. This is a part 3. I think the art is really pretty strong in this. It's a fun team book. You get Nightwing leading, you get Beast Boy, you get Wonder Girl, you get Tempest, you get other Starfire and Cyborg and Young Flash, Wally West. And it's just a fun book. It's a fun superhero book. That's it. I mean, it's not super deep. It's not going to change your world, but like if you want a competently written team book that's just fun to read, I'd pick up Titans. You can do worse, and you're only 3 issues in. You can probably find the first 2 lying around somewhere because like the Night Terrors shit doesn't count. I didn't read the Night Terrors. It's just kind of like it'll take you a while to get into it. But like these are the new preeminent superhero team because Justice League's on hiatus until they're probably back next goddamn month. But whatever, it is what it is. I enjoyed this one, pretty decent. And next, fairly high on the list for me for what it is Dawn of DC Wonder Woman #1. This is Tom King. It's a new era begins. Tom King and who the hell's the artist? I should know the artist, but I just don't on some of this shit. So Semperi, and I'm not going to hunt down because it's at the end, because of course it is. All right. Daniel Semperi. I might even be butchering the pronunciation. This is Tom King at some of his most verbose. It's a lot of dialogue. And in places, it feels like too much. The lettering feels a little bit tight and small in places. You get the Tom King trope of a not an omniscient narrator, but like a hidden narrator, where like that's the guiding hand. That's not Wonder Woman. I'll tell you that much, without spoiling much. And then you get like just a lot of dialogue. This is also Tom King poking a lot of fun at American politics and the media. If you're on a certain side of the aisle, you're probably going to think one thing of this book, and be on the other, you're probably going to think something else. Or you're just going to be like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, which is, it's not subtle. But it is interesting enough that it's this high on my list, because we're like about halfway through, and that's not bad. I will give this another issue at the very least, and for Tom King, that's saying a lot for me, because he tends to frustrate me. I do think the art is pretty fantastic by Semperi, and I think well-paced for a comic book. You have like page turns and that are great reveals, and you have like well-done panel layouts and everything else. Even when it's like talking heads and just a whole shitload of words, it's still fairly interesting. I mean, if you've ever read The Dark Knight Returns, it's going to remind you of some of that in a couple of ways, because you're going to have them talking heads of the media doing the talking head media things, and you're going to have a lot of like, what does the general public think about shit? And then they find the dumbest person in the general public to talk about things. So it's not, like I said, it's like getting hit over the head with a hammer as far as the point he's trying to make. But it's entertaining enough, and I like his take on Wonder Woman so far. I mean, there's not much of a take on Wonder Woman in this issue. It's got enough of a premise behind it that I'm going to give it one more. So we'll see how it goes. Gorgeous art. It's going to take you a while to get through this one. Kind of tiny lettering. It's okay, for better or for worse. All right, next. This one, it feels like it's also been forever since it came out, but I think it's only been like a month. We have the Vigil number 5, Romvi. This is the best issue of the Vigil yet. You kind of learn what's going on with the team, how they came to be. It's timey-wimey. It feels kind of Hickman-y, even though it's Romvi-ish. The art I don't love. The art is Sid Koshian, and like it just seems pretty inconsistent character-wise from panel to panel. And the characters like are supposed to be young kids don't really work that well. And then you get like 90s looking faces that just kind of bog me. But it's a really interesting premise for the history of the team. If you like Planetary or the Authority or some of the Warren Ellis stuff, you'll probably dig this. I think there's only one issue left of it, sadly, yet to be concluded. I'm interested to see how it wraps up. Unless you're really a boner for like collecting like all of the issues and stuff. Either get the first issue, so you get the first appearances, then you can spec on them if it ever turns into anything. I doubt it. Or just see if they turn it into a trade, because like I don't see this team doing anything in DC. I wish it would. I think it's interesting. I think it's one of the more fun concepts to come along in a while as far as the superhero team and science team goes. But I got a feeling the sales are abysmal on it, and I don't think DC is going to do anything with it after that. I think it's going to be pretty much done after this one. So, interesting, mediocre art. There you go. All right, next. There's another one that's been forever. It feels like coming out and stuff. But Saga, issue number 66. I love Saga. This is the start of the next arc, I believe, kind of. It's another one where like you're going to be kind of lost if you had not been reading it. But Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples do a good enough job of like at least sort of quickly catching you up as far as like that goes, and then pushing you off onto a B plot. That's pretty interesting. They make a good team. They have wordless pages. They'll show, not tell. And like it's gorgeous. I love the Staples art. I love the space operatic nature of it. I love that these minor characters can be pushed to the forefront for an issue or two in this book. And it's just kind of a really fun book, even 66 issues in. Don't pick this up if you're new. Go find an omnibus or go to your library and read the first thing. Otherwise, you really are going to be lost. But if you've been reading Saga, it's a solid issue of Saga. It's hard to, this one's hard to like say that, oh yeah, it's the best issue ever. I don't think it is. I do think it's kind of a filler issue, but it's a fun one, and you could do worse. Then did my computer just go to sleep? It sure did. All right, hopefully I'm still recording because whatever. Anyways, Saga. We're getting there, people. We're getting there. We're almost done. We have 3 left. Loki number 4. This is the last issue of Loki. Dan Waters and Hermaine Peralta. I like the series a lot. It's Dan Waters writes a fun Loki, and this is Loki chasing after a ship that was made out of his fingernails. So it's a weird. It feels like it fits in with weird Norse mythology. I hate the fucking lettering, even on this summary. Like you got to get real close. It's green on black or like yellow on green. Hard as shit to read. It is VC's Travis Landum, and then it's just a little small, and then you get the weird. Everyone has to look Asgardian, so you know it's an Asgardian speaking. It gets better as you go, but like in the lettering, especially the first couple pages, really bugged the shit out of me. But the story itself, Bullseye is in it, and Bullseye is being Bullseye and evil, and like using what he found from Loki in a pretty fun and evil way, honestly. And it's like what he does with Spider-Man, I dig, and what he does with some of the other supporting characters, I really like. And I really enjoyed how it wrapped up. I think it stuck the landing. I think it's a solid little miniseries. I think Dan Waters has a handle on Loki as a character and writes them very well. And I think that this is a great addition to the Loki story. It's not a major thing. You can totally skip this and still have fun with Loki. But if you like the Loki TV series, or you like that iteration of Loki, I think you might dig this miniseries. Again, just get it collected. It's not gonna. There's no reason to spend these $4 an issue when you can probably get the collected thing for $10, or just get it at your library and save even more money. But it's a good looking book. It's a fun read. My nitpicking thing is the lettering on it. It's a solid wrap up. I really dig the treatment of Bullseye and Loki in it. Okay, Jeff Lemire. He can tell a story with decent pacing and monthlies and like give it more room to read. Now this is a little more money. This is $6. This is Fishflies number 2, and this is Jeff doing all of it, writing and illustrating it, except for the lettering. He doesn't do the lettering, but so if you don't like his art, you're not going to like this. He's got a really sketchy kind of hand and a really like inky and sort of abstracted figures. But I like when Lemire draws himself. This is touching on a lot of Lemire tropes. You have an outsider kid that befriends an outsider entity. We'll leave it at that. And like their lives are going to change. It's set in a small town in Canada, and it sort of feels like putting on a warm kind of gross glove. Like it's a Lemire book. Like if you've read Sweet Tooth, you'll probably like it. If you've read Descender or Ascender, you'll probably dig it. It's just kind of, it feels familiar. It's a new story, but it's got all the Lemire-isms. It's got like a kid nobody likes that's different than everybody else, and like not a lot of parental figures around, finds a substitute thing that might or might not be good for them, and then that's this story. There's intrigue, there's small town drama, there's bullying, it's got all of the sort of like writing tropes of him in what I think is a gorgeous package. Your mileage may vary, and when I am saying these things that it feels familiar, I don't mean it in a bad way. It is a new story, and you do get like Fishflies, lots of them. I don't want to show you too much of this, but it's $6, which that's a lot of money, but it is square bound, and I don't know how many pages this is, but it's a fairly thick boy book. I think it's 3 of 7. Or this is issue number 2 of 7. I think there's 7 issues to this. So by the time it's done, it's going to be pretty beefy. That'll be $42. You really also are probably better off just waiting and getting it collected. I know that's not great for everybody here, but like, it's going to be cheaper. It'll probably read better in a collection, even though I do like this as a monthly, which is not what I said about the Tenement. I think the pacing is better on this. I think he leaves it in a better spot at the end of this one, and I think it's better executed all the way around. But hard to still $42 American plus tax and tip and credit and whatever. Anyways, finally, my favorite book of the week by a fair amount was Rare Flavors #1 by Ram V and Felipe Andrade. This book, I actually had to do some research after reading it to find out what was going on. There's a creature from Hindu mythology, like sort of a demon figure, that is loose and is also obsessed with like cooking and Anthony Bourdain. That's the setup of this book, and it's the same team that did The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and this is, I think this is gonna it's not the same story, but it feels also like a Ram V book. You've got like gods playing with humans, or like these figures playing with humans that are more than people and trying to fit in and interact and playing with people as their puppets. And then you have gorgeous, and again, in my estimation, gorgeous art by Felipe Andrade that really fits the story well. And yeah, it seems like a love letter to Anthony Bourdain and food, and how food can affect memory and life and culture, and really end up being like a touch point for like a moment in time. And I think it has potential to be something great. It's a $5 book. I don't know how many issues of it. You're probably better off getting collected. But this is my favorite book of the week. I like when these two pair up. I loved Many Deaths of Layla Starr when that came out. I don't think this starting issue is quite as strong as the first issue of Many Deaths of Layla Starr, but it's its own thing, and I do think it is pretty darn interesting, and I do think it's an interesting idea and an interesting take that might take a little work on the reader's part, but sometimes a little bit is worth it. So that's what I read. Like I said, I missed out on Alpha Flight number 2. I don't know how much I actually give a shit. Missed out on Terror 16. I might find it. I might find both those and hunt them down in the next week or two. And then if I could find that Hexagon Bridge one, that looked kind of interesting, so I'll try to hunt that down. If I'm missing anything else, let me know in the comments down below. What did you read? Did you like everything better than I did, or differently? Hope so. So are you less cranky than I am? I also hope so. Are there any trade paperbacks I should be reading? Like, should I take my own advice and like read some collected shit I'm missing on? Let me know. All right. Don't be a dick, even if it's all just fine. You can buy that at TaylorWinter.com. Shameless plug. See you later.